Yeah, we're live. Hi, everyone. Can I welcome you to this evening? I'm just going to try to make sure that our YouTube is up and running because tonight we are at what I call the excel in your career. And I'm just waiting for all, I've got people joining. Good evening, everyone. Celia, Princess, Ceylons, God bless you. Hello, everyone. Let me welcome you back from like 29 or 28 days of prayer and fasting. I just want to remind everyone to please try to see if you can give a quick nudge to your family and to your friends that needs to be on here, that would gain a lot from today's service, or what I would say it's going to be a great time that will be able to excel and propel your career. And I believe in the name of Jesus that lives will be shaped, dreams will be fulfilled, and success will be guaranteed. Good evening, everyone. I'm still in between that good morning and that good evening stuff. And I just would say to everyone that just forgive me if I keep going in and out of those things. It's been a 29-day of prayer and fasting and me talking. Well, today it's not only a thought process. Today is ordained by God, because this evening we want to bring the natural into and add the supernatural on top of it into our lives. Because I come from a background of where I grew up in church and everything is prayer. Little effort on our behalf, everything is prayer. As I started to grow older, I found out that everything is prayer, but there's also the doing that you should receive from prayer. So prayer is a communication with God, and it's a place where God tells you what to do. God doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of success. And so tonight we are coming based on what God is teaching us to do, for us to be able to say that we are in Goshen clearly, but also in Goshen is the provision for the skills that will take us to the next level. And that's why we're here this evening. And I'm believing God that it will be a wonderful time. Can I remind everyone, please, if you've got questions, type it out on the YouTube, on our Facebook. We're not on Instagram tonight because we can't connect all the speakers. But please type in your messages, send them through to us. To the panel, especially by God's grace, we'll be able to answer it. And they will give you more information, even if you don't send anything, in how to connect and communicate with us. Let's pray. We're going to pray right now, and then we'll start. Father, we thank you for this day, because this is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We've gathered together, oh God, this evening, because it's really instructed by you, that we, out of the fasting and praying, we spent a month fasting and praying and waiting upon you. And out of that, you have given birth to this wonderful team, this wonderful unit in church. And we're believing, and we know, God, that this unit is going to be the arm of worship tabernacle that will link the internal to the external. That people will not be shouting on the inside in church, but weeping on the outside. That people will not be standing in church, but sitting at home. Not that people will be lifting their head up in church, but lifting their head down. We want to connect to the holistic part of our lives. And we ask in the name of Jesus that this came out of the birthing of prayer and fasting. And as we continue tonight, we ask, as I always say, that lives will be shaped, dreams will be fulfilled, and success will be guaranteed. Thank you for putting us in Goshen this year. And to you we give glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. And someone says a loud amen. If you believe it, shout another loud amen on your keyboards. Okay, I have got a stellar panel today, stellar panel, and I call them a stellar panel because Worship Tabernacle clearly is a great church. Yesterday we were 18 years that Worship Tabernacle started. And with that, we thank God for where we are. These young people are doing great things. And I'm going to introduce them one by one, and then we're just going to go straight into it. First is Liz. We've got Liz Bastin. She is a great woman and a great woman of God. And actually, she went from retail to working in the big four firms in the United Kingdom. And so she's got valuable, a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and experience in this. She progressed 3 times in 5 years, and currently she's now the vice president. She's a vice president of a company. She's a magistrate and also a non-executive director. There's other juicy parts about Liz. I'm going to leave that for her to talk about. And then we've also got Stella Izilgu. She actually struggled to get a graduate job after numerous rejections. And then she strategically created her own graduate route. She secures promotion every 18 months. And now she's the senior manager in a high-profile government organization. And also both of them are actually co-directors of their own Impact consultancy, which you will hear a lot about as we go along. And right now, you should be used to Francis Aremo, who introduced this on Sunday. He bounced back from being let go from 2 companies. He's now the top performing salesperson. He's the founder of Let's Talk Jobs. And he currently works for what I call Indeed.com, which is the world's number one job site with over 250 million unique visitors every month, over 60 different countries. He is phenomenally experienced in job search and all that kind of stuff. And I'm so grateful to have these wonderful, young, great people on panel right now, not borrowed from any church, inside Worship Tabernacle, because their greatness inside Worship Tabernacle, and trust me, they have a lot of wealth of experience that will help us right now. Guys, I want to welcome you. I'm sure you're not nervous. God bless you as we do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it give us like five minutes each, so that people will get used to you before we go into our discussion. And I'm going to go first to Liz. Liz, she's the first one. She's actually heading up this Excel team. And I just want, Liz, just go ahead. Let everyone know what you are, what you bring to the table. God help us. Hallelujah.
Sure. Thank you, Pastor, for those great introductions.
Increase your volume a bit. They need to get, just...
Sorry, bear with us. Can you hear? Is that better?
Slightly. Can you? Is just increased to the total volume? Just yeah.
Okay. Right. So is that better?
Yeah, we can. Yeah? We'll be fine.
Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah. So for me, my key thing is about career progression. I am all about that. From the start of my career, I was just about career progression. And so even when I graduated, I graduated during the recession. So many of you guys are going to be able to relate to that, because we are in a recession. It's going to be so much harder to get a job. So my whole thing was just about, how do I break barriers? So I had the recession as a barrier. I had the obvious barriers of being a Black woman from an inner city borough. So I didn't go to private school or anything like that.
Right.
So I had all of those barriers ahead of me. My first degree was in law, graduated, recession, couldn't get a job. It was horrendous. Tried to apply to so many different grad schemes, wasn't happening. Obviously the competition at that point is just worse than a normal year. So it was just horrible. So I ended up just sticking to my weekend job, which was in retail, and it was actually in B&Q. And I was just like, you know what am I going to do? So in that time, having Nigerian parents, it wasn't like you could just stay at home and say you're working in B&Q and you've got this degree, a law degree at that. So I just decided that, okay, I'll do my master's. At least that, you know, will keep my dad happy. So I was doing my master's, and also I needed something else in my arsenal, because it was just like my degree is not enough. So I needed to do a master's, which would allow me to specialize. So I did a master's in financial crime and regulation. And then when I was working in B&Q, there was a position for admin, and it was stock managing admin just in the warehouse. So I did that. I was like, you know what, let me at least get more money to pay for my master's, etc. Along the way, I was just like, actually, the skills here, I can use them, and they're really good transferable skills. So I was like, hold on a second, my portion isn't just to stay in retail at all, not after I've got this degree and then I've got a master's on top. It's not happening, can't happen. So for me, it was like, where I've got this master's, I need to make sure whichever job I get is positioning me in the right place, and it kind of pays for itself. It pays for the master's, it pays for my degree. And also, just I'm a bit ambitious person. So from the outside, I had to do a career strategy and plan. And so what my thing was, it was like targeting companies that I knew would be able to pay me well, and I could like have a good career trajectory with these companies, which meant I wasn't going for just any firm. I knew very early what I wanted. So I was targeting big fours, I was targeting big financial institutions, I was targeting law firms. So I was doing all of that. So I first had in my mindset what kind of firm I wanted to work in, because I knew and then the second part of that was, okay, I want to work at these firms, but the firm I'm going to, these firms that I want to work in, are going to be one of the hardest to get in, because everybody wants to work in these firms. So I was like, how am I going to get into these firms? And then the second part is, why did I want to get into these firms? I wanted to get into these firms because I knew with all the barriers that I had, if I had these good firms on my CV, that's a less barrier, because they would just see it as, okay, she's kind of like, she's met the level of expectation that we need for her to go into this other firm or this other position. So for me, it was like, I need to get into a good firm so that all these other barriers can kind of fall away to some extent. So I targeted the big four. As I said, I saw that there was a compliance role, and I was looking at I looked at the skills that this job had, and I thought, how can I align my CV to the skills that they're requiring? And so it was kind of like, most people do it the other way, but I actually was like, I know where I want to work, I know what kind of sector I want to work in, it's compliance. So let me look at these skills. So I looked at these skills, and I looked at my skills. Then I was like, okay, transferably, how can I match them? And so I just tweaked my CV. I used the language that was in the job description, but the duties that I had, and I married them. And so that's how, and I got a few interviews. It wasn't just a big four. It wasn't just one interview. I got, a few interviews. And so I had one interview in the city, good firm, and I think it was even a middle-level firm. And then they said to me in the interview, I was interviewing with them, and then they said something wrong, and I was correcting them. I was like, no, this is the law, etc. So they loved me, and they wanted to offer me a position. But then when I spoke to them more, they started talking about me having to make coffee and tea. I said, absolutely not, it's not happening, because I know what's going to happen. So it wasn't like I had to be a bit picky as well. Even though it was a recession, I was like, no, if I'm going to be making coffee and tea as well as adding all this value, I need someone that respects me. So I was absolutely not. So I held up. Anyway, I got the interview with EY and did really well in it. I just explained everything I did, and I translated it as to how it would work for them in that position.
Is this from B&Q?
From B&Q.
Wow.
The job that I had, I just used my skill sets there. And I just said to them, this is what I do, and this is how it will align to what you need. Yes, it's not like but I completely understand what your issues are, and I have the skill set. And what I did is I made them realize and see in the interview that I would be able to work in that role. Right. And so that was kind of my thing. But anyway, to progress my career, I've always just, as soon as I got that job, my next step, within about 4 months or 5 months, I was planning my next career move. And that's what I do. As soon as I get in, I'm looking at, how do I progress? What do I need to do? And I'm not waiting, I'm figuring it out, so that everything I then do, any project, any work I do, it's all going to support what my next move is. And that's how I've been able to get progress and move quite quickly in a new industry to me, and get to a VP level in a short amount of time. In about 5 years, I did it.
Wow.
So that's my story.
You know, that echoes what I used to say in Worship Tabernacle in the earlier stages. I probably have not said it in a long while. I've always said, always consider yourself unemployed. And that's how I progressed. That's how I walked my way from being behind the desk in for social services, going into IT, working as the most junior role. You understand, answering phone calls and all that. And each time I walk into a job, I say, "You're still unemployed." My mentality was, "You're unemployed." That mentality took me all the way from there to BT, and then ended up with Lucent Technologies and finished my career with Microsoft, because I always considered myself unemployed. And I echo just what you said. And I believe somebody's going to learn from that, because especially retail, and we'll talk much about that tonight, because retail is not bad. You know, sometimes people start it while they're in school and all that kind of stuff. But somehow we just kind of get stuck in it, and then we find it difficult to move on, because we have the fear that everybody looks at our retail experience than where you want to go. This will be so great. Stella, speak to us. Yes, come on.
Thank you. So Liz and I are sisters, so similar background in terms of having Nigerian parents. So I went to university, got a degree in accounting and finance, quite a good degree. And I came out of university, and because of my degree, I was basically part qualified. So my main issue was that I was qualification heavy, but experience light. Wow. And that happens to a lot of people. So, so the issue I had, I came out of university because I was experience light, I was looking at graduate schemes. And as you know, I did get a few interviews, but a few assessment centres, but I did not secure one. And as you know, from people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, Black people, we don't, not a lot of us go to private school, or we go to state school education. And the way we are taught is not in a way that helps us pass graduate schemes that easily. There's a lot of things, the confidence and things like that. So these are the type of people that I was up against. So I decided to just start applying for jobs, and I can't even tell you how many applications, maybe 200, 300. I was applying, I was getting
200.
Literally, it was a very, very hard time for me. And I kind of felt like, should I give up? At the time, at university, I was working part-time in the bookies in William Hill. And can you imagine having this degree, part qualified, and you're still there? So I was very, very frustrated, and I couldn't get a job in accounting and finance. So I decided, okay, let me strategically see what I can do. So I decided to get another job in customer service. I went to TfL. TfL paid quite well. So my plan was to actually have enough money, work in a shift type role, so I can also pay my bills and things like that, and also try and get work experience somewhere, even if it was unpaid. So that's sort of like what I had to do. So I ended up getting work experience in a high street accountancy firm. So my days went like TfL, 5 a.m. to 12 in the afternoon, travel to the accountancy firm, 1:30 to 6 or whatever it was. So that was kind of like what I had to do at that time. I wasn't getting paid initially, then I was doing really well. And then the partner started paying me. And what I think one of the key things I want to point out here is the importance of getting experience and not despising small organizations.
That's it.
I got a wealth amount of experience, and that experience alone, I think I was only doing that for about 9 months.
Right.
And I was able, so in that role, I identified that I really enjoyed tax. So I was like, yes, I love tax. I want to learn more about tax. So my approach was slightly different. I wasn't looking at the type of organization. I was looking at role specific in terms of what role do I want to go for. Luckily, I secured a role in the Home Office as a tax compliance accountant, and I was sort of like helping. I founded a tax centre of excellence in government, and I was helping loads of government departments in terms of the taxation. So with me, I was able to go in. I got a promotion within 18 months, and again, I kept on getting promotions. So I kind of went through the route of trying to get that solid amount of experience in the beginning. Yeah. So people shouldn't always think about, okay, let me go to, like Liz was saying, you know, you go to a big organization, but they want you to make coffee and tea. It doesn't really make sense. You have to make it make sense, get the experience that you need. So what I do now is help people that come out of university to strategically get the experience they need to actually get into roles and things like that. And depending on what you want to do, it's been a great help for me. I'm with that experience working in an accountancy firm. I've had a great relationship with him. I started up my own accountancy business with him sort of like supporting me, and the knowledge and experience I've gained through working in government, in tax, and with this partners enabled me to do my own things. So people also need to think about, if you want to do your own things as well, what skills and experience can you get in these jobs as well to help you in your future sort of career and businesses. So that's sort of like my my story and my contribution. So.
You know, that's fantastic. You know, funny enough, I'm sorry I keep bringing my IT career, and even my present career, if some people call it like that, is the advantage I had was working in very small farms. So because you have to do everything in that farms, nothing is automated. The kind of wealth of experience I had when I walked into an automated farm, you understand, was immense, because my wife walked into an automated, she worked for Credit Suisse, First Boston. And most of the time when there's an IT issue, I look at and say, oh, do you know how to do it? She said, no, everything's automated with us. So you kind of marginalize and specialize in one area. I have to take the computers apart. I have to put them together. I have to understand networking. I have to understand this. So what happens is that because you now have to communicate with people all around, when I now walked into those big farms, when there was an issue, everyone goes automation. Nobody thinks out of the box. My promotion came because I was able to think out of the box and looking at, like, what's the problem? This is not a problem. This is not a software issue, it's a hardware issue. And I remember when I took one server apart and just put it in, and bam, it started working. I mean, it was amazing. And what we're just saying is that, as you rightly says, do not despise the days of little beginning. We had this massive turnover in Worship Tabernacle that when people volunteer to come and work for us, they just don't last 5 months, 6 months, and they get a massive job. Because even when you volunteer and you work in a place, it's sometimes help. Everyone wants to just do the big things without realizing that your trajectory can be just being in a place that God can just bless you, and then you go from there. And it's always been the case with us. And so thank you for that. And Francis, we're going to quickly go to you. Francis, he was fired, or let go is the nice word. So how did you get to where you are, man? How was that? How did that happen, man? He's the regional chair of the EMEA Black Inclusion Group. Boy, talk to me.
So so ultimately I was working in sales, and I was doing well, and I felt, you know what, I'm going to move companies because the company I work for is kind of small. I really want to make a name for myself, and there was a director that was a managing director that was kind of asking me to move over to his organization. So I said, okay, no problem. So I moved over to this organization. The managing director, his wife unfortunately fell ill, and so he stepped down. And someone came in that didn't remember the promises that the previous guy made to me. And he didn't know my name.
Yeah.
And he just didn't really like me. And he took me aside and said, sorry, we're moving in a different direction. And I was thinking, so what does that mean? Are you giving me a promotion? I'm the top salesperson. So obviously it's a good news. And he goes, no, we're gonna have to let you go. And till this day, I don't know how I got home. I can't remember. I remember him saying, we're gonna let you go. And then everything went black. And then I'm in my house crying. And because I felt so desperate in that moment, I was applying for everything in any job. And I didn't really vet the companies that I was applying for.
Right.
I was thinking, I've been with my previous company for 2.5 years, and then this company has been less than like 9 months, and so I'm just panicked, thinking I don't want to have a short stint on my CV. They agreed to pay me out 6 weeks, so I need to get a job within 6 weeks. Otherwise, it will look like I've been out of work, and so that was kind of my game plan. So I kind of rushed to another job.
Right.
It was one of the worst decisions. So I got a bit of a pay increase, but then it meant that the company wasn't the right company. I was probably the only Black person across the whole of Europe. They were going through an acquisition of another acquisition. You know, it was so much moving parts. But nevertheless, I'll put my head down. I did quite well. I was really successful in that job. 8 months comes along, and they say, well, sorry, Francis, we're gonna have to let you go. And I was confused. I was like, whoa, what does that mean? And then and he said, as of right now, we're gonna move some managers and make them salespeople, and you're too expensive for us right now. And so then I just, that's 2 jobs, less than 18 months, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going to look terrible on my CV. Else will then apply, will appoint me to a position. And so I was panicked initially, and I started to apply for like loads of jobs. So I didn't realize that I refused to make the same mistake that I made last time.
Yeah.
And get a job, because it's going to happen again. And so, and there was a colleague that got let go the same time that I got let go in the first company. And he was on his 3rd job at that time. And so for me, I was in a polite way, I was thinking, I don't want to be where he is. I want to make sure the next move is the right move. And so I was strategic in the way that I applied for jobs. So I was applying for jobs like it was a full-time job. And so it was, I had a strict structured time between 9 and 1. I applied, I gave myself a lunch break. I then applied from 1 to 5. Wow. And then I didn't have kids at that time. So, and then after that, I do a night shift quickly between 10 and midnight. And that was my plan. I literally did it every day. I applied, I got the numbers. I wrote them down. I applied for over 807 jobs. I got rejected by 481.
Wow.
Interviews with 206. And I remember one day I did 6 interviews in one day.
Wow.
So I did an interview in the morning, and when I was physically there, I went to a cafe, I did a telephone interview. I then did an interview again at lunchtime. And then it was totally crazy. But I had a calendar to manage my interviews. But yeah, so I did over 206 interviews. There was 43 companies that I said, I don't want to work for you. So it was at the final stages, and they would say, you're great, we think you're amazing, but we're going to cut your pay in half, or some craziness like that. And then there was over 60 companies that took me to an interview stage that just never replied back to me, just never got back to me. So that was kind of my journey. But I feel the biggest thing for me was when the right job came along, it was asking them the right questions. Okay. And what also is rejection is the opportunity. And I feel that sometimes you don't realize that them rejecting you is a good thing. Because sometimes you feel like some jobs, I look at what I could be working. There's a company that I was really close to signing with them. They've closed now. Like, that would have been number 3. And so rejection is an opportunity. Like it's so important. The company I work for now is Indeed, the largest job site in the world. And so ultimately, so I work with, or I sell to HR professionals and recruitment consultants. And so I've learned so many things that you just don't know. Yeah. So I've learned that if your CV is longer than 2 pages, no one's going to see it, because a good recruiter pride themselves in scanning your CV and shortlisting you in less than 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. They pride themselves. We even have data that shows how long they look at a CV on our platform before they discard it and go to the next one. It's literally 10 seconds before they shortlist it. They may go back to review it again, but you had that initial 10 seconds. They typically do not go to anything longer than the second page. So if you have anything longer than your second page, you need to reduce that. Like also, there's so many like nuances in a sense that it's about when you apply for the job. So some people are getting rejected for roles and they think it's because their CV isn't good enough, or they think it's because they're not qualified. The issue is when you apply. So if you see a role that's been open for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or even 30 days, like the reality is you're more than likely going to get rejected, especially if we're talking about industries like accountancy.
Right.
80% of all placements of sectors within accountancy are placed with people that apply in the first week. So if you're not applying in the first week in let's say the accountancy field or like other fields, you're never going to get an interview, and you're getting an automatic rejection rather than it's anything to do with your qualifications, your skills, or your experience. So,
okay.
Thank
you. I'm actually even receiving some questions, and I'm going to say to guys, hold on a second. Some of your questions we will answer. One of the questions that's there is what I'm bringing onto the table. Somebody has just said, "Oh, can you review my CV?" or something like that. Can we talk about it, any one of you? What excelling your career wants to bring to the people? What do we want to give everyone? Because this is just an introduction. It's this. Let's talk about the team, what the team wants to do, because many people may be coming on and thinking, oh, this is a one-off, on the a seminar, and then we forget it. No, guys. Tell us what we want to do. What's the vision? What do we want to move forward with?
Okay, so I'll start, but everybody's going to chime in. For us, me and Stella have a company called Impact, and Francis has Let's Talk Jobs. So both of those companies are all about progressing people in one way or another. People that have barriers against them, more specifically Black people, but we are helping people from our communities to progress. And we attend Worship Tabernacle. It would be such a shame if we didn't come together to do this as a ministry. We couldn't do that. So me and Stella and Francis, we connected based on our organizations that we've got. And we were just like, actually, we all go to church. What are we doing? Like, we need to bring this to church. It's been on our heart. And so the heart behind it is us serving the communities, us, like what we do with our companies, etc., and helping other people outside of church. We were like, there's absolutely no way we cannot do that within the church. And the kind of things that we help people with, as you can see the stats going on your screens now, you will know what these are kind of the main issues. Black people are more underpaid. So I think there's a stat there that says that Black males are typically paid 7K less than their white male counterparts. Now, we know that there's a massive issue with gender payment and disparities in that. So if you think about it, a Black woman's there's probably going to be an even larger amount of money that a Black woman isn't getting compared to her white counterpart. So we've got that. So we're going to have, for these stats here, we're going to have people in the team leading on each of those kind of areas. So as you heard Francis speak, he's got a lot of background knowledge and he speaks to recruiters all the time. So he's going to be definitely helping you to increase your income. And what he does with Let's Talk Jobs is a lot around that. So he's bringing that into WTXL. Myself, I'm about career progression. And you can see the stats that like 1.5% of Black people across public and private sector hold positions of leadership. So I'm very much about going into these fields, make sure you progress at the right level. And it's also about having leadership positions. As Pastor mentioned to you guys, I am a magistrate and I am a non-executive director. And so those are very, very there's a lot of responsibility in those roles, and they're quite high positions. They're seen as quite high positions in society. So it's about getting into these places, getting into places where you can initiate change. And so I want to bring that, and that's what I'm going to be dealing with. I'm going to be dealing with career progression, how you get into these kind of places, how you go to the next level, how you can initiate changes strategically. And just, we need to be getting more Black people into these types of positions. And also, Stella will be dealing with, as you heard, her journey, her early career, and how you can just progress and, you know, just get around the barriers and get into the job that you want that will help you get to the next level, just start your career, be it from, if you're like at high school and you need to make a decision as to what degree you're going to go into or what you're going to do next. She's going to deal with all of that stuff. So that's kind of like the 3 pillars that WTXL are going to be dealing with.
Right.
Just to touch on just a couple of those things, and I know the pastor said, "Oh, can you review my CV and stuff along those lines?" I feel like there's the age-old saying that rather than teaching someone or giving someone a fish, it's better to teach them how to fish, right? And I feel that especially with your CV, that is something you need to own. It's not about only getting the interview, but it's knowing what's on there and what it looks like. And I feel that we're going to do workshops around how to help you at the beginning stages. What should your CV look like? What should be in there? What shouldn't be in there? And we will review it with you to make sure that you have what is in there, but you can also speak to it. And also now you have the great CV that you've worked on, you can update it whenever you want. I remember when we first met up and Stella was talking about some work that she did, and Liz was like, "You haven't added that to your CV. Your CV needs to be something I'm exposing our private meetings." but then your CV needs to be something that you add to on a continuous basis. Not keep on getting other people to do it for you. And we want to work with you to make sure that you're empowered to do it yourself. The second stage is really around that interview. Now we've got that great CV, we've got the interview. What stuff we should speak about to make sure they understand who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you understand what the role is going to be for that organization. And then just really work with you. It's like, let's make sure we get the most money possible for you and your role. I mean, it's devastating when you walk into a role and you're realizing the person next to you is getting 20K more from you and you're working twice as hard as they are, you know, and they're doing the same job title and same role and everything else. And so it's really around how can we make sure that we position ourselves to make sure that you don't get, and this is a saying I always say, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate.
Right.
You deserve way more, but it's what you negotiate is what they're going to give you. That's really important.
Right.
But yeah, that also means that we're going to work with you. So apart from the seminars and the meetings, if you do have an interview, and you know, like, it's really important for us to help you strategically for the interview, but we need to pray with you as well. You know, we're going to be touching and believing and see you know, you get to that expected end and that perfect end. So it is around the works, but it is around that faith piece as well. It is super important.
Liz.
So I'm just going to add that, so in regards to people actually trying to find out how they can get in contact with us, there should be a link in the YouTube description, and it's a link to our discovery form, so you can complete that, fill in the details, and then we will look at that and see what support we can give you. So as Francis mentioned, we're going to be doing workshops hopefully maybe every 6 weeks, once a month. We will basically see kind of what the church needs. We will also be holding career clinics, and that will be, everything's online. We're looking at Saturdays. Obviously we are growing our team, so obviously when we get further information about that, we'll obviously let you guys know, but these are the kind of things that we're looking to do. So we will have like 30-minute sessions, and we'll go through whatever it is. So say, for example, as Francis said, it might be that you have an interview coming up, and we'll go through kind of like what you need to do, coach you through that as well. We're also looking to set up a LinkedIn group, and it'll be a WT LinkedIn group. And what the idea is to create a network, because one of the issues that we find in our communities is that we don't actually have our networks. We see people into roles and things like that, and it's, oh, because I know this person. No, we want to start that. We have enough people in WT. We've got people working in amazing organizations. So we want you guys to join the group. If you have vacancies coming up in your teams or anything like that, do introduction where you can. Let people know what kind of things they need to know in order to get past that interview, or, you know, what things about the organisation. So we're going to be doing that as well. And we're really, really hoping that, you know, we can, as a church, we can really, really break those barriers and, you know, help everyone kind of get the careers that they deserve.
Yeah, I think there's something that I need to say to everyone, both those who are watching us on YouTube and those who are watching us on our Facebook platform. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube, but those also watching us on Facebook. Let me say this before we throw up some other questions, and if you have other questions, we'll start to deal with that. The truth of the matter is that when you mentioned the LinkedIn group, it broke something within me, because most of the time we love to gather together to pray, but we don't like to gather together to help each other. We love to gather together to type stuff on Black Lives Matters and then go out and march. But when it comes to our community, and we say we open up something like this, everybody seems to run into their own space, you understand? Or they get excited, but they don't have the perseverance to stay there that long to either help people or be helped. And I found this so much in our community. And one of the things that are thrown at the church is we love to pray, we love to do all that kind of stuff. But really, we need to come together, and whatever God has helped you in, to be a contributor back to the society, both as a church and also our community at large. And I think that so many people are hiding behind their careers because they're successful and they're doing well in their own place and they have their own children and their own stuff. But they're not leaving a legacy behind. Like, did you help this person? Did you bring Mephibosheth from where he was? Did you bring them up? Are you a Jonathan that has helped a David who didn't have anything, and this David has now become king? You understand? Are you the one that's speaking in the ear of Pharaoh, that you met somebody who interprets dreams? Because if we do not create opportunities for each other, we are not going to go beyond where we are. So there's also another clarion call that if you this LinkedIn group will help, because there are many people who are artists, you understand, in the artistry industry, those who are in the accounting industry, the legal field. How many times have I had to call some lawyers in church to say, how do we do this? Even in the medical field, some people are in the medical field that can, just a little idea, dentistry, even pharmacy. My niece came to me one time and was looking for how to progress in her pharmacy. And because I knew some people in church, I spoke to her. The mistakes they made, she's not making right now. You understand? And I think that if we can come together as a community, but persevere and stay there, not just, oh, I'm excited, oh, I'm really excited about this, but there's no commitment, and you're committing more crime, and you're derailing the progress than actually helping. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't pick up your call right now, I'm going through stuff. No, Jonathan was going through stuff and he was still helping David, and Joseph was still in prison but still interpreting dreams. And what many people don't understand is that the opportunity that God has given them is for them to be able to be a blessing to the people who are around them. And I want to thank you guys for what we're doing, as this thing is going to grow enormously. Now we've got another, if people can wait for us, that would be great, because I can see that this is getting really some great stuff here. But let me just throw out some questions that may help some people. How can people, this is a really big issue, and it's an issue for me, it was an issue for me. How can people actually transition from a different industry into a place where they really don't have any experience?
Liz, do you want to take that, or shall I start?
You can.
So I think one of the key things that I'm going to start with is, I think a big issue that people do is that on your job, on your CV, actually put your job title, because I feel like a lot of people put on their CV what the actual job title is. So for example, Liz talked about her journey. If she put down the title of her job as stock management or admin, that doesn't reflect what she actually done in that role.
Wow.
reflect it at all. In my current role now, depending on what I'm looking at, I might be called a senior manager. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean senior manager. What does that mean? So I'll put a financial controller. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I do. I'm a financial controller. So I think one of the key things that we do, that we help people with, is actually understanding, okay, what skills do you actually do? And then on your CV, making sure that reflects that title, that title, because as Francis said, 10 seconds they're looking. If they see senior manager, they don't see. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Or even if you're working in retail, like a lot of the things that we've done through Impact is actually help people go from retail, go from customer service roles into actual real professional career roles. And that's all based on strategically writing your CV in a way that translates well. So I would say, like, some of the things Liz went through earlier and we talked about through is actually understanding, okay, what skills do you have? Doing a skills map, like mapping out, okay, what skills have I gained? And another thing that people don't do is they only look at what skills they may have gained in a job. What about what you've done in your life experiences? Pastor, you mentioned about helping people helping in church. Like, sometimes people don't value kind of all your skills. You have to look at everything that you've done. Yeah, even in things that you've done in uni. A lot of people don't realize that some of my friends that are from a bit higher class background, they didn't work through university. So I've got a different skill. I've got resilience. I've been able to manage working at the same time as university, but because we're so used to it, we don't realize that's a skill that we can put on a CV. And talking about early careers, some of the things the mistakes you make is by thinking, I don't have any experience, but you do have skills that you can actually translate into a role or a position or something like that, even positions you have in the community. So I think one of the key things is actually really trying to identify and pinpoint your skills. In our sessions with you, these type of things that we would do, we'll say to you, okay, what do you do? What are you good at as well? Because there might be things that you're good at home as well. And use that to actually help you transition into other fields or into the actual job that you want. I'm not sure if any of you guys want to.
I just want to add to that.
So I could be looking for a job.
Yeah.
God help me. If I put there pastor, I probably will not get. But if I put there chief executive officer or director of a charity organization, that flips the entire narrative. You understand? And if I'm going for a counseling job, I can put there experienced counselor than rather putting there. So every single skill, you understand, has its place when you want to transfer to another. Oh wow, yeah. Francis, do you want to say something?
Yeah. I just want to actually add to that. Like, the company gives you the job title based upon what they pay you. They don't give you job title based upon what you do. So,
can you say that again? Can you say that again?
Gives you the job title based upon what they pay you. They don't give you a job title based upon what you do. So then what that means is, I've worked with companies that want to advertise jobs and they call their job title sandwich artist. That doesn't mean anything. Like, I need you to translate. So for them to go on our website, we ask them to translate their job title to something that's more generic, even though internally they call that job title something else. Same thing you need to do with your CV. You can translate your job title. Like, for instance, I'm in sales. Some companies call it senior as enterprise account manager. Another company will call it a national account manager. Another company will call it international sales manager. And the job title will change. Development manager or sales exec or account exec, or all these different job titles for the same role. So you need to translate it. So when the person that's doing looking through your CV, they're called sources. When they're looking through your CV and they're giving you 10 seconds, all they're doing is, they're not the hiring manager. They have no connection to what the actual duties of that role is so they don't have an in-depth knowledge. So what they're doing is looking and saying, job title, looks quite right. Does this person have the same terminologies? Looks about right. Sometimes it goes through a software before it even goes to anybody else. How much, what's the accuracy of this CV? Okay, now we're gonna screen it. Okay, now manually, okay, this looks, and it's matching. and then it goes to a hiring manager, and then it goes to maybe a senior recruiter that will work with it. And so you need to translate your CV so they can understand what you bring to the table. Like rather than writing your job description or the job title they gave you, it's really important to write what skills is relevant for this role. So you having one generic CV is like one of the worst things you can do unless you're only applying for a particular type of job. So you need to have multiple CVs depending on the role that you're looking for.
One of the things that caught my attention most is 10 seconds, meaning 1, 2, 3. So 10. So there's a CV that drops, and you actually spend 10 seconds, because in our days we pile the CV. We have like 3 pages or something like that.
Sometimes 7 pages, Pastor.
What did you say? 7?
7 pages. I had to tell a close family friend that change that 7 pages. We need to make it 2.
Wow.
But let me add something though. However, on that point, right, you can have 3 pages, right? But you have to take into consideration what Francis has said, because it depends on your industry, right? So, for example, you can have a 3-page CV, but your first 2 pages, make sure that it has the most relevant and the most crucial information. The reason I say that is the 3 pages can come in handy. As Francis said, the first stage is you have to get through the recruiter. So the recruiter is only going to potentially look at those first 2 pages. However, if it lands on my desk and I'm a hiring manager, I'm interested in the 3 pages. I will look through the 3 pages. That third page could strengthen you against another person, for example, and I might select you because I might be looking for somebody that has a breadth of experience. Maybe it's not as relevant, but you bring other things to the table. So you need to really be measured about how you approach what you're putting in your CV and positioning it. That positioning is like really important. Like you should always have your skills, like your skills and achievements, like your highest achievements should be like at the top. That's the first thing I want to see. I want to see your achievements. And recruiters also, if they see those keywords, you were able to reduce this amount of money, budget, whatever, those things are key. And so I think people like, they don't put things like the important things at the top, they put it on the last page or whatever, right at the bottom. Make sure you
kind of sometimes put there, and I'm talking about my archaic employment knowledge, in where we just put in our date of birth, our name, our address, our education. Well, that's the first page.
Ask Francis about what you just said.
Oh, Francis, don't do that. Don't do that.
Francis is coming.
No, because the issue that we have is it's so hard getting a job right now. And we introduce so much bias into the application process that we don't need to introduce. And so what you need to do is like, date of birth, take that out. Take out your address. If your degree isn't that great, take out what qualification you got, just write the place you studied. And even then, high school, take that out. And the year that you studied, take that out. All of these introduces different biases that lets people know roughly your age. And so therefore they calculate how much experience you should have, and therefore if you're deserving of that role. And so the recruiter may be older than you and think this person wants to get a position higher than me. And so there's so much bias that you introduce by adding like the time that you studied. So it's like, oh, you did 4 years. Did they do a sandwich year or did they get held back a year? Like there's so much things that we introduce that really we shouldn't just take out those dates. It's not relevant. If you don't have to have that information, your CV should be a summary of your greatest achievements. Only the things that are relevant. Don't put everything there. There should never be a CV unless it's a graduate job, but you shouldn't have a CV that you have your GCSE results. If you have GCSE results, take them out immediately. Like, immediately. Unless it's a graduate role, do not have your GCSE results whatsoever.
Right.
That out immediately. It's just wasting space.
Right.
Get through that 2 pages. It's important.
So now that we've laid some groundwork about transferable skills, because that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with. Also, on the other side, I'm just going to throw this in. So I come from the pastoral point of view, you understand? I'm still getting this thing that diligence is also one of those most important things, and hard work. Because many people want you to write their CV for them. Many of you want you to do their hard work. Many of you think, in fact, I say this, that many people, they do more hard work in prayer and fasting than actually doing the job. If you tell them to fast for 7 days, no problem. If you tell them to sit down and write their own CV and apply for some certain jobs, it's like, God, what is happening? They feel rejection is failure, but that's not so. There's an element of what we need to bring to the table. And having said that, so the CV lands to the desk, and then fortunately, by hard work and by prayers, you get to that stage. What are really some of the reasons why people do not get to the interview stage? Why? I mean, your statistics, Francis, has blown everybody out of the water. I mean, Liz had 200 applications. Why don't we get to the interview? Because many people get to that stage, and then even when they get to the interview stage, why? Well, let's merge the two together in that, and they're preparing for interviews. How do people not get it right at the interview stage?
So can I jump in this one first, please? So there are two things that I feel are really essential. The first thing is, when you get to the interview stage, know that you're probably one of 20. So then whoever applied, the recruiter typically doesn't want to talk to more than 20 people. And so then you're one of the few at this point. And so that's the first thing you need to understand. The second thing that's really essential is 50%, and that's across the board, across all industries, 50% of people that get to an interview stage apply within the first week.
First week.
In the first week.
Right.
So the reality is, this is the other thing, you're not competing against the whole job market. You're only competing against those people that applied within the first week. And even when you get to the interview stage, you're only competing against those 20 people. So you're already standing in a good stance. So what you should do is have alerts on the type of jobs, and then, or the type of roles. And you can do this with Indeed, obviously, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and have alerts. So I would look at LinkedIn's a bit tricky, because what LinkedIn does, which is beneficial, is that they will promote a job and refresh it so it will look like it came out today. Yeah. So I'll always go to Indeed and refer that same job and see when, because it always have the date or when it was posted. So that's really essential. But I'll follow certain companies. So if you want to work for Netflix or Google or Microsoft or wherever it is, I'll follow those companies on their company page. So the moment, and some companies have it directly on their website, other companies do it through a third party. But the moment that role is posted, I would then apply for that role. And I already have my CV ready. I'm really ready for it. Or the certain terminology. So for instance, Stella spoke about she really want to do taxation. So I'll have that terminology ready in that search. So the moment that role is posted, I'll get the alert. Right. And I'm almost, if I have a great CV, I'm almost guaranteed to get that interview.
Right. Yes. Liz or Stella, someone wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, I was just going to take a step back and talk about sort of like the application, getting past the application phase. So as we mentioned earlier, Francis and I, we didn't get through. I struggled a lot, and what the things I know now, it would have been completely different. So as Francis alluded to earlier, is that now a lot of companies are using HR software. It's something called Application Tracking System, ATS. And what this does, before a human looks at your CV, it automatically scans your CV against the job description and it scores you. So if you get less than, was it 70%?
Yeah. Some of them 70%.
Some of them are 70%, some of them might maybe about 60%. But if you get less than that, if your CV comes in and it says 55%, they don't even look at your CV. And the key issue with this, yes, and when we're talking about having barriers in the recruitment process, this is one of the key barriers in the recruitment process, because what it does, and we discussed this earlier, is keyword matching. So like, for example, I was doing a test there. I'm an accountant. In my CV, the amount of times I would actually say accountant or accounting because of the context of what I do, I may not necessarily say, oh, I'm going to do accounting every day, every whatever, on a daily basis, because it doesn't actually make sense, because that is my role. But then if a job description now said, oh, we're looking for an accountant to do X, Y, and Z, and it has that term, there wasn't a match, because it didn't really make sense, because there wasn't a lot of the keywords weren't matching. So the issue that a lot of people are having, they're looking at their CV and thinking, I've got all the experience, why can't I get this job? It's because they're looking at keywords. And some of the systems are so sensitive that if you have something like financial control, but you don't have financial controller, it wouldn't match. And again, when we're talking about the job titles, again, that's why it's important for you to amend your job titles and make sure that it's relevant to the role, to the organization or the role that you're applying for. Because in one organization, you may be called a vice president, another organization may be called assistant director. Make it match. And it's a frustrating thing, but luckily there are tools out there that you can actually use. So on our website Impact, we actually have a tool that you can go in, you can copy and paste your CV, copy and paste the job description. Before you apply for that job, you can then see how well your CV scores. So then it tells you kind of like where you've scored low, what areas you need to fix in order for it to actually get to that pass mark for you to actually get that role. So a lot of organizations, I think I read the stat, it said 98% of Fortune 500 companies, so the large company, use ATS systems. So that means that humans are not even looking at it yet. So for you, it might make sense, but it's a key thing when you're applying through like recruitment organizations, through Indeed and things like that. You have to really check what you're applying for and see how it matches to your CV.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are some questions that are coming up here. Someone says, thank you for the session. In line with Francis' point about the structure of the CV, how do you balance not including GCSEs, older experience, and not having gaps?
So I've written my CV multiple different ways, and I think probably Liz can kind of break this down even better than I can. So, but then what I personally do is, let me say it another way. When someone asks you, tell me about yourself, you could tell them about, when I was 5 years old, I did A, B, and C. But then, or you could focus on, currently I work in this company, and so forth. And so those are extreme examples, but the heart behind it is really we want to focus on what is the most relevant for this role. And so if the role doesn't require you to, if it doesn't say anything about your GCSEs in the job description, do not include it. Like, so you're making it, everything that's not relevant, remove it. Like, even sometimes it looks better if you did the year that you worked rather than the month. And I'll do that sometimes. I worked here from 2001 to 2017, or whatever it is, whatever makes it look the best, that's what you do, And also, this is the other thing that people don't realize, that even if you have a gap in your CV, explain the gap in the CV.
Exactly.
So, a family member, something happened to a family member, or I had family commitments. And so during this period, I took a career break and I focused on A, B, and C. I also read books along the lines of A, B, and C to forward my career and my prospects. Once they see that and you're taking the extra time, that makes a big difference. So, the one thing I always say is tell the truth, because if you don't tell the truth, they will find out. So, away from morals and just being godly, the truth, if you always get found out, So,
especially on this social media stuff that you post a lot of stuff on there. Yeah.
Easy, so easy. Like, tell the truth.
Having said that, sorry to jump in. This just by the way, because I talk about it. Do recruiters actually check your social media page?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Let me tell you a story. In my old firm that I worked in, what they do with the graduates is a standard procedure. They will, before you come, they will give you an interview, but before the interview, they will check your social media. So this individual got to final interview with a partner, right? And the partner was like, going through like the interview steps and pulled out his laptop and showed the individual a picture of their social media. And actually the story was quite a bad story in that her father had, I think she must have posted something on her social media, but her father was involved in a fraud case or something like that. He was in a very high profile individual in a high profile bank. Wow. And the partner said, how can I be assured that you are not going to be fraudulent in this firm because you come from that family, kind of thing. So that happened. And then she had to defend herself. When she did, and she still got through. But they will do things like that. Also, another thing that they do is they can, in like assessments and things like that, or introductory days, they will pull up your social media and show it to everybody that's like in the room.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and then you have to justify yourself. So they do that.
So we need to be careful what we put up on our Twitter page,
absolutely,
our Instagram, our they'll put it up. So what if your Instagram is full of very revealing things? That will come up too.
Absolutely. The thing, it will come up and they go back as well. One of the things they go back. They've got people that just do this. Wow. But one of the things that we do say, we know a few partners that we work with Impact, and what they actually do is they do a social media cleansing. So they actually go through your social media and they have like search terms and things that they will look for, and then they will cleanse your social media for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for that. Someone said this quickly before I go into the other question. Says, what does the panels, what are your views on cover letters when applying for jobs?
Do you know what? I think that it depends on the job that you're going for and your industry. Because in my industry, rarely ever would you be asked to provide a cover letter, but you'll be guided by your industry. You should know in your industry if a cover letter is required or not. And if you do require a cover letter, don't just regurgitate what's in your CV. They don't want to know what's in it. They can read your CV. So use that as an opportunity to show why you're different from another person. The things that you can't explain properly in your CV, bring it out with like a twist to it, so they really understand this person. They get a flavor of who you are as well, because the cover letter needs to be a bit more personable. When I went for the non-executive director position, it was still in finance, but it's actually to be a non-executive director for a massive finance board, membership board, and it's personal finance society. So that's for like mortgage brokers, every type of like finance professional. They requested that you have to provide a cover letter. And they obviously got my CV. So in my cover letter, I spoke in depth about kind of like what my achievements were, but I was talking about how I saved banks from going under, how I saved their banking license. I went into that level of detail so they understand my value. And so that's what you need to do. It's really about pinpointing your value. Cover letters are definitely do help. But I think that you should you need to know your industry, and then you know when a cover letter is required or not. And that's one of the things that you know your industry, so you know where a job requires it or not. I think gone are the days where you had to just send a cover letter as a precautionary, but it's not like that anymore. It's very much guided by your industry. I think that's my take.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add one thing. I was just gonna say, piggybacking off what Liz just said. The worst thing you can do is provide a cover letter that is not relevant. It will do more harm. Yeah. So make sure that if you're going to provide a cover letter, do the work. Make sure that you look at the job description. Okay, what kind of things are they looking for? What kind of things are relevant? And then talk that through in your cover letter. Ensure that you're making it relevant, showing your value, showing why am I different and why can I add to this role, add to this organization. Do not do a blanket cover letter. And make sure that if you're referring to a company, talk about why you want to work for that company. Find key things that important in that company, and say, this is the type of change or value that I could add to your organization. Don't just change the name and say the generic thing. That's the worst thing.
Like a key thing that I would say, actually, just from you saying that, is when you do a cover letter, do a media search. troubling that company at the moment.
Okay.
And make that your guidance for how you draft your cover letter, because everything that you then say will be in regards to that issue. That's something they want to know. They want to know, okay, this person actually understands what my pain points are and actually knows how they would address it, and they're showing their skill sets and what they've done previously that would address this. So I think that's a key thing. And one more thing I will say is that people talk a lot about cover letters, but one of the things that's quite important and is not spoken enough about is the follow-up letter after you've had an interview.
Okay.
That is that really does actually make a difference. Stella's got a story about how it actually helped her, get a job. But that's one of the things you shouldn't feel afraid. Do it after you've had the interview. Send a thank you letter. Tell them that you enjoyed the interview and why. Show them a bit of your personality in it. It's a really, really good practice to do that.
Right.
I just want to touch on quickly, rather than, and this, the cover letter is in some instances important, but I thought what's most important is getting a referral. Like we're talking about like cover letters, so I go on LinkedIn quite often, and sometimes I look for people that work for the company that I may not know or connect to someone that I do know, and I try to get a referral into that company. A referral goes way further than a cover letter, and I typically go for the people that are black. And say, hey, how is it with the company? How long you been there? How have you enjoyed it? And start some sort of conversation with them, and then say, after we build a small rapport, ask them, would you be willing to refer me for this role? And I may message 10 people. And just and different people tell me different stuff about the company, which will then aid my interview. But that person that comes back to me first is the person I'm going to ask to give you the referral. And
based on that referral and that connection, you get more insight than the generic thing that you just find on the website. Not only that, but you also get a different type of recruiter that will work with you rather than the person that they. So we have a whole different team of people that kind of work with referral candidates, because the team typically they find that referral candidates are better candidates. And because they're the person that they're speaking with, the person knows the company, they have someone already inside the company, all of those things make a big difference. And so there's a stronger emphasis on people that have been referred. And that has a bigger impact than a cover letter, for example.
Yeah, and also the referrals, sorry. Also remember, just a quick point, sorry, Pastor. Just on the referrals, it doesn't have to be someone that still works in the company. They could be an alumni. Alumni referrals also are really, really key as well. So don't think, the person doesn't work in this company, they can't. Referrals. Yeah.
No, I think a vast majority of businesses depend on referral. Worship Tabernacle grows on referral. I know you come to my church and all that kind of stuff. Oh, what is about Worship Tabernacle? Many things about referral. Companies grow on referral. One of the things that is trending right now, and I like it, is the fact that when you spoke about this checking their social media, somebody just says, "Oh, no silhouette challenge." Yeah, no.
Absolutely not.
Shouldn't have been doing that. If you
Pastor, do you know what the challenge is? Do you know that challenge?
I'm not. When they remove that red light, some of you will be in serious trouble. You understand? Not, and they've now found ways to do that. I'm not oblivious of what goes on. I'm not this pastor in 20 years ago. Because I'm telling someone, they have found ways of removing that kind of silhouette red light. You will be in serious trouble. And the internet and social media, they never forget. They never forget. So, guys, and then someone was asking the question, is it legal? The question is, let me answer that question and you guys can answer the legality. Even if it's not legal, if someone checks it, they've already registered something about you. They may never tell you they've checked it, but they've registered. Let me give you a very solid example. Somebody wanted to get a job as a child carer, and they put my wife's name and I as a referee, you understand? The lady, the social worker, came online to sit throughout our entire service.
Wow.
Let's to find out what is our message. How is that going to affect the person coming to our church that affects the child?
Yes. Wow. Okay.
And when I got on, and when they wanted to interview her, she said, "Oh, Pastor," and she regurgitated my message. She she's a member now, you understand? She regurgitated the message. She said this, and that she needs to say this, and she said, okay, it's not in line with what, but this, and she repeated some stuff, and she found out, she said, now I understand why this person is applying for this role and the kind of mindset that they bring in. Are you following what I'm saying? So if I had gone on there and said a lot of nonsense, that could still affect everyone else. And also and that's the reason why sometimes I'm measured about what we say. I mean, when we're in the four corners of the church, I just blab, I could do anything. But now that we're online, man, you've got to be careful. And so somebody is saying, is it legal? Whether it's legal or not, they will check out. And it may be counterproductive.
Yeah, but it depends, right? Because obviously, if you think about it, your social media, if it's open source. And open source means that anybody can come and look at it. So it is, because you've let it, you said the public can come and view. So you've given them that leeway to do that.
Right. Before we go, I'm aware of time, but so what type of things do you need to think about when you're preparing for an interview? Let me just, if we can do 5 minutes on that, and I've got one more question, and then we'll open up. If you've got questions, fire it right now, because as soon as we finish, I'm aware of time. So, but if you've got questions, please put it down. We're checking all our platforms to see if there are other questions coming up. I love your comments too, so it's great.
I think that one of the issues is, I think Francis kind of alluded to it before. If your CV is not drafted by yourself, or you don't know your CV inside out, it will come out at the interview very, very, very quickly. Quickly. You'll be found out. Don't go into an interview, and regurgitate what's on your CV, because it just shows that you don't understand. If somebody's sitting with you and interviewing you, they want to have a conversation. So they don't want it to be kind of like, even though an interview is structured as question and answer, the best people that I've interviewed, and when I've done successfully at interviews, is when I've turned it around into actually a conversation. So right now, we're just talking, and it's just like, you know that I understand everything that your company needs, and I'm telling you how I can help you, and I'm making you feel comfortable, because you now get that I actually understand things. And what I'm doing is not going through my CV and just saying, oh yeah, this is on my CV and this is on my CV. I'm saying, this is the situation that I had. This is the result that I had from it. You don't need to always go through like the STAR structure, which is a competency framework structure, but you do need to discuss, and you need to be making it conversational. You need to be saying, yeah, so these were the issues, and this is how I addressed it, and these are the challenges that I understand that you're going through, and things like that. And even if they don't speak about the challenges, because sometimes we wait for them to present a question, introduce it yourself, because that shows that you've done wider reading and you have a really good grasp of what's going on. Even if you've spoken to a friend and they've told you that information, doesn't matter, because as far as they're concerned, you've done the research. One way or another, you found out what their pain point is, and you're able to now discuss it. If you cannot discuss your CV, it's like the worst thing ever. And with Impact, we spoke to several people. They will have a nice CV, and they might even come and tell us, oh, I've done X, Y, and Z. Once I ask them, what did you do? They can't explain it. I said, then you're not going to go anywhere. If you can't explain it to me, then someone that's a professional and an expert who's interviewing you, you're going to get found out. And so that's one of the key things for me.
Okay.
One thing that's really essential with interviews is, in the same way that they look at your social media, look at theirs. So in the same way that there's so much stuff that you want to remove from your CV so that you remove bias, you need to introduce bias that works in your favor. So like me personally, I would turn around and say, when they say, how's your day today? My typical opening answer is, I took my son to the nursery, and any day that I have a couple of hours for myself is a good day. And so it's like, I already introduced, I'm a loving father. You know that I have a son that's 2 years old. I'm introducing bias to the conversation.
That's true.
So also, like, even with, like, I played rugby for maybe a year, when I was like 17. If I saw on your social media that you played rugby, or you watch rugby, or you have a rugby team, I was like, you know what? I wish I was playing rugby like I used to do in my good old days. And so those are the things. I'm going to introduce as much bias as possible to make sure that, because people care about stats and figures, but they care about people. People buy into people. So it's about building that rapport and that relationship to make sure that you guys have a real connection. Because they're going to work with you and they want to know, is this a good person? Do I have a good feeling about them? You have to make sure you create that situation.
Yeah. I was just going to agree. I was just going to say, one of the things that people like, tactical things, try and always find out who's going to interview you, find out the structure of the interview. A lot of people may not ask, so you can ask the recruiter, what structure is it going to be? Is it going to be a competency-based technical interview? So at least you come in there prepared to actually talk to those different areas or prepare for the interview. Some people don't ask and they come in, they expect it's going to be about their CV, but they ask them something competency-based questions, and those are some of the hurdles that you can face. So just ensure that ask the question, just ask, and they'll give you that information.
And then on that point, sorry, no, I was just going to say, on the point that Stella raised about going to find out who's interviewing you, one of the things I do is I'll find out who's interviewing you. That's fine. I'll look at their LinkedIn. So again, I'm looking at their career history, and kind of like what Francis is saying, I'll introduce my bias where I know they've worked somewhere maybe I worked before, or they've dealt with something I worked before on. So I will bring that in, and that straight away is like, oh, we've got a connection. Or I will look at articles that they may have written or they've liked. You can do it on LinkedIn, and then you can just introduce it if it's like an industry topic, and then they're like, oh, this person thinks or is aligned to me in that way. And like, if you're like, with typically as a woman, I have less to talk, like less bias that I can introduce with a male person. So I will just have to go on that basis of, do you know what, let me just look at what their LinkedIn is and stuff like that, and how I typically do it.
Right. There's two quick questions. I always have this problem when I'm finishing the interview and they say, do you have any questions for us? It kills me.
I love that question. I love that question. So two things. So I'll always ask a question beforehand, and that'll be around the company, and I think probably Liz and Stella can talk to that. But a question I always finish with, after asking two or three questions to make them feel that I'm interested in the company more so than just the money. The other question that I will ask to round up is, I'm not going to hold you to this, just based upon your gut feelings and the way I've answered some of the questions, do you feel, is there anything missing or any red flags that you may have to promote me to the next stage? And so I'm not going to hold you to this. I just want to know, there may be a misunderstanding or a misconception. I really want to know, and what you're trying to do is get feedback in that meeting at that moment, because you're never going to get feedback when you leave that room. The moment the Zoom meeting ends or the meeting ends, that's your feedback. There's no more feedback. So if you got promoted, you don't know why. If you get rejected, you don't know why. So you get your feedback right there in that moment, and you have two options. When they give you the feedback, you're able to say, do you know what? When I said this, what I meant was A, B, C, and you're able to clarify. Now, I'm wrong. That it's not that 20% likely to change someone's mind, but you're able to understand, you know, I mispositioned this particular thing. And so this rejection is now an opportunity for me to learn for the next time. So you need to make sure you're learning from every single experience. So even if they're rejecting you, you're fine with it because you know what you did wrong, or you know you're taking the right role for you, or whatever it is. You need to get feedback in that meeting. So that's the last question I always ask. But then there are questions you have to do beforehand to soften it up and make sure they know you're interested in the role.
I'm just going to say one thing to that. That is, looking at it from someone that's interviewed someone. I was in that situation, and it gave us the opportunity to then ask more questions to find out more about that candidate and give them a better chance. So don't be afraid to actually ask that question.
Right. One of the big questions, which I think we should delve in, I think we've got less than 8 minutes to go. Many people are underpaid at work. Why do we think that is? And how do we make sure that we get what we deserve? This is while they are at work, but also when they are applying for a job. Why exactly do they feel that they are, how would they know what they're supposed to be paid, and how do you negotiate a better salary? I think this will be the last question before we round up and do some stuff. Yeah.
So I love this. So I guess the first thing is, typically when we first took our first job, the job that they offered us was less than what we deserve. And that there's so much statistics and stats around how Black people are getting less paid than their white counterparts. We showed us a couple initially, but away from that, we take what they give us. They turn around and say this role pays 20K, and we say no problem, thank you very much, and we move on. We didn't realize that was the minimum they were willing to pay for that role. So that's not what the role actually is. It's what the minimum that they're willing to pay for that role is what they're offering you. And so, or what the minimum they feel that you would accept is what they're offering you. And so that's typically the way things work. And so, what's really essential is, and I say this regularly, that companies don't pay you what you deserve. They pay you what you negotiate. So you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. And so you need to negotiate what you deserve. And the one thing that you need to do is research. Know what that company pays. And you're going to Glassdoor, you're going to levels.fyi, you're going to, there's so many different, there's payscales.com, there's so many different platforms that you can use to find out what is the range for this role. And if you know how diligent and how hardworking you are and how much time you put into the role, then you put yourself closer to the end, the higher end. Whereas if you know that, I just want to get here just to make enough money and I'm going to go home as soon as it hits 5 o'clock, maybe even 4:45, then you put yourself in the middle, But ultimately, it's really important to find out what that company pays or what competition pays. So those are really important. On top of that, is when they offer you the role, the first thing you need to do is first say, thank you very much. They'll always negotiate with you on the phone. You do not have to accept anything over the phone. You say, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. I just want to calculate a couple of things. This is an offer that I'm really excited about. Can I get back to you in the next 2 hours via email? It makes it easier for you to kind of break down the value that you bring, and there's no miscommunications. And so you able to say, thank you very much for this, for the offer. So you start with positive, and then you go in for the offer and say, can you meet me at this amount because of the amount of experience that I bring to the table and how diligent I will work in this particular role. And then you end it with a thank you again. So it's positive, your request, and then it's positive again. So that's the typical, the framework. And you send it by email. Now your negotiations doesn't only have to be money. It could be holidays. It could be sign-on bonuses. So there's companies that will pay you like 15, 20% of your salary up front for you just signing their contract.
Wow.
People don't know this because they don't ask. And so it's like you may move from one company to another company, and it's stuff like you may have stock options with the previous company. You may have different allowances with a previous company. You may have to move from where you are to where you need to be, or all of these additional things that's going to have additional cost to you. Then you can just say, can you meet me at and ask different things. So there's a sign-on bonus, there's additional stocks, there is more money, just ask for more money, there's more holidays, and different type of benefits as well. So if they say your previous company will give you a paternity leave or a maternity leave of, let's say, 9 months, and this company's only 6 months, okay, can you meet me at the additional 3 months, or can you increase my pay? Because if I do choose to walk in that direction.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna
end. Anyone else? Yeah. Before
I'm just going to add 2 things. So the first thing is that in a lot of applications, it will say, what's your current salary? A lot of people are afraid to, they don't know what to write there. And what I would say, kind of following on what Francis said, put what that role is worth, what your role is now worth, not what you're actually getting paid, because you don't want that to influence that. Or actually, they're making 55 now and they're asking for 80K. If you know that your role that you're in now is worth 70K or 75K, whatever it is, you put that in. A lot of people think that, how are they going to check they don't really,
Contract.
they can't check. So that's the key thing. And another thing as well, when you're actually in an organization and you get promoted within and things like that, make sure that you do your research to understand what you're actually supposed to get paid. I had a situation in my workplace where I got promoted, and when I got promoted, I was already getting, I think it was like a 20K increase. So, but because I'm a qualified accountant, there's another kind of allowance and bonus that you're meant to get, kind of like what Francis says, if you don't ask, you don't get. And because I'm an accountant, I researched everything. I knew what my total increase should have been before I actually got the promotion. And what happened was that they tried to not give me the full amount. And I went through all the guidance and I spoke to the director and I said, I think you've given me the wrong amount. And she was like, no, I've done it. You're making average. I knew I wasn't making average. I spoke to all the other people at that grade. I said, on average, how much are you making? Are you making more or less than this amount? And they said, we're making way more, you're getting underpaid. And I pleaded my case with the director, and she was like, oh no, when I was your grade, I was making a certain amount of money. I'm just like, don't do that. Do not try and put me in the box. So like, she just tried to do it anyway. She was like, oh no, I spoke to this person. I said, I gave her all the facts, and she was like, oh, I'm going to let you know. Went back to my desk. Within 1 minute, she sent me an email saying, oh yeah, your salary has been approved. Your salary has been approved. So make sure that even when you're within an organization, ensure that you do those checks, because some people, they don't want, if they're a certain grade, they just don't want you to be close, and they don't want you to progress as much as you should. Just make sure you understand the structure, do your research, be bold. If the policy says it's something, you fight for it.
And I think one thing to add is when you're going into a new role, you're moving firms, do as much as you can to find out somebody that you know that's in that role. What I did is I just keep your networks going. It's one of the most important things. Keep your networks going. When I did my move, I asked somebody that I used to work with, and I just said to her, what is the salary band? Because that's another thing. You can have a huge salary band. Some salary bands are like 30K. And so I was like, what's the top end of the salary band? She told me what the top end of the salary band. I was like, okay, cool. I know that now. When I went into the interview, that's second point is when you're in the interview, listen to what the responses are of the people interviewing you. When I went to the interview, they were saying things like, we've tried to recruit for this role for 2 years. It's a really specialist role. So already I know if I'm getting the job, they found it hard to place someone in that job, and it's really specialist, which means I'm going to go for the highest bit of that scale. And what I did, not only did I do that, because I knew all of that, and because I knew they liked my experience, I then went past that, and I said to them, no,
at least you'll get, even if they're going to reduce it, it will be at the top end.
Exactly. So I went above that. So exactly that rhetoric. But then at the same time, I wanted to just see what would happen. And they were like, we have to go back to HR because it would be a policy change. I was like, yeah, go and do it. Let me see. So obviously they did it. They were like, oh, we can't do that because actually what they then said was, well, we were looking to promote you up actually so you could get that salary. Then they were like, but the problem is because obviously, as I said, I've moved up quite quickly. They were like, we can't justify. Nobody has is at that level with that amount, small amount of experience that you have, kind of thing. So we can't justify it. So then I said, okay, I positioned myself and I said, I want a promotion within a year.
Right.
You know that because now you said that I want a promotion in a year because you're already looking at me for that next level.
Right.
So I set the tone for where I wanted to go. And that's how I got a promotion quite quickly. Right. I got into the firm again. So yeah.
That's good. My contribution to this is when Goshen.
Yeah.
I got to make my own personal contribution. Don't quiet, guys, and God will bless you. Let me just look at. I think we've answered some of these questions. What if they ask why you're applying for a role that pays less? So sometimes people go for a job.
Yeah.
I think out of desperation, the role is less than what they're doing currently. Mm-hmm. I think from what we've heard today is like, guys, just don't just go for, because from my experience and my penny word is that when you go for those roles, that means you're starting again from the scratch. Meaning every single time you're applying to go up, where else you're supposed to have been 5 steps up than where you are. I think it's a lot of faith, a lot of belief, a lot of perseverance, and I think you will get what you need to get.
I'll add one thing to that.
Yeah.
So there's 2 things with that. When I'm talking to people about their careers and jobs, the one thing that I deal with and I speak to the most, away from anything, is confidence. The reality is people don't believe in what we bring to the table. And so, like, the issue is sometimes people go, well, this recruiter that I spoke to has said that I don't have enough experience for this sort of role. And so therefore, even though I'm doing the role right now, they're suggesting I should go for a role lower than where I am and work for a better company and then build myself up.
Right.
You need to understand that recruiter's motivation is different from yours. Their motivation is focused on, do you know what? I have this role that I need to fill. And by any means possible, I'm going to, if it's a round peg, I'm going to put in a square hole, I'm going to force it in. And so if I need to bring this person lower or bring this person higher, I have the targets that I need to meet and I have the right expectations that I need to manage. And so their desires isn't always connected with yours. And so that's the first thing. The other thing that's super, super important is that sometimes you look at the job description, this really happens when it comes to, it happens with ethnic minorities, but it really happens with the gender, with male and female. They look at the job description and they think, a guy will look at it and say, there's 10 things they've asked me for. And this is, I'm being generalistic, and so forgive me. There's 10 things they asked me for. I can do 6 of those things. Let me just apply, right? Well, where a woman will want to make sure she does every single one of those 10 things. The reality is, it's not up to you to decide if you're good enough for the company. Let the company decide if you're good enough. Give them the opportunity to see what you bring to the table. And they may look at the 6 things that you do that's so amazing and say, we'll train you on the other 4.
Right.
And so my biggest thing is, as long as you do at least half of those things, put yourself forward and apply. And bearing in mind, this is the other thing, 50% of people that are placed in interviews apply in the first week. So if it's the first week, you're only going against those other people that's applied in that week. That's your own competition.
Okay. Quick question. These questions are coming in quick and fast. And I'm sorry, I know it's taking a while, but let me quickly say this. Should people have a salary increase conversation with their manager if they're in a job right now? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely. Just a quick one. The reason why is you're reviewing your goals and objectives at every year or mid-year for some firms, right? So at that point, you would have had objectives. If you surpass those objectives, why shouldn't you get a salary increase?
Okay.
Make sure you're geared to say, this is what I've achieved. This is where I want, what I need. You need to be really, really open about where you want your career to go.
Okay. Another question is, as a contractor within the financial crime sector, what advice would you give in regards to transitioning to a permanent role as well as job hunting within this climate? So should people who are contractors, do you think the climate right now means they should be going for permanent roles?
Right. So the person's asking the financial crime sector, the sector I deal with, right? Now, it depends on what your motivations are, and it depends on where you work. If you're working in operations, right, an operational type of role, you need to be trying to get a permanent role, because what they're going to do with operations is companies are trying to cut costs. So they're going to move a lot of their operations to maybe like Spain or somewhere like that. Right. So try and make sure that you're maneuvering like all the skills you have, not even just to get a permanent role that's in operations, but to try and move around. And the second thing is that there's another element of operations that everything's going to fintech. So if you're in an operational role and right now it's paying you money because there's a lot of contractor roles in operations, think about what the landscape is, because in like a year to 2 years, it might not be the case that you have a role. So you just need to look at that. It really depends on what you're doing. Right. A lot of the operational roles a lot of the contractor roles are operations. I'm not sure with this individual, but those are kind of the considerations.
To take that offline, yeah. And the last question, we'll have to. Some of these questions are things that you can ask for. Someone was asking that, can you be asking for a salary increase though we're in the middle of a pandemic? Yes, You can ask for anything by God's grace. You can ask for any salary increase, even if you're in a pandemic. We are not in the middle of a pandemic. Egypt is in a pandemic. In Goshen, we're not in the middle of a pandemic. And I think this is the best time for some of you to be having those
money. Companies are making a lot of money, right?
People are making money.
They're still making money. They're making money off the pandemic.
Right.
Their increase. So you too.
Yeah.
There's a controversial question I want to ask. You understand? Someone's alluded to this. African names and biases.
Okay, can I just the thing is, okay, so what happened to me was I've got African surname. One of my friends has got he's Caribbean, so he's got English surname. He basically copied my CV. We have the same background, went to the same uni, got the same everything, and we both applied for a job. Who got called? He did. I didn't. They didn't.
Like for like CV.
Like literally, it was my CV. Yeah, it was my CV. He added bits here and there. We both didn't have experience. We both had the same sort of everything was the same uni.
Right.
And he, so it's a real thing. And I mean, in my opinion, some people have aliases. I feel like it shouldn't necessarily be an issue, because that if they're not being biased, so what? If your surname's a bit different, you might, do you know what I mean? I feel like, in my personal opinion, it's not an issue. Some organizations, not a lot, do blind recruiting anyway, where they don't actually, they blank out your names. So I feel like do a test, see if it makes a difference, submit to, see which one with the same CV, and see if it's actually a thing, because it is a bias.
Right.
It might be getting better, but it's definitely a bias.
But just to confirm, like, and the bias happens in so many different levels, but one of the main reasons is that they can't pronounce it, and so the recruiter feels insecure and just says, I'll do that later. And then they find the 20 they want to interview with, and they'll have to come back to you. And so it is a bias and it is real. And so it's I would say that I understand why people don't have an alias and refuse and say, this is my name, God gave it to me, you're gonna take my name or not. And other people say, do you know what, I'm not working for that recruiter, I'm working for the organization, even though a recruiter may have bias, the organization doesn't. So I understand both sides, and it's really what you feel is relevant and perfect.
Okay, we're gonna have to close here. This is the final one. So let's tell people where we go from here, how they can get in contact, and what can they do. Somebody sent me a text, my wife showed it to me, that she doesn't have a problem of application, but she's in a job right now where they're recruiting a lot of people. And how can she get in touch to be able to give those kind of openings to you guys and all that? And can we also remember, I'm going to say this LinkedIn thing is really real. So can you talk us through before we close? Guys, just hang on for another 5 minutes and we'll be done. So what how can people get in touch? Those who want to, who need help and all that kind of stuff, what's the next step from here? And also those who can be of help.
Okay, so if you want to help the ministry, thank you to everyone that so far contacted us. We're going to be speaking with you this week, God willing. Our email address is wtxl@gmail.com. So if you want to help serve the ministry,
wtxl@gmail.com. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to help serve in the ministry, or you believe that you've got something that you can give, please drop us an email stating exactly what it is, and also your availability for us to get in contact. If you actually require support from the ministry, we have a Google Forms link that hopefully should be in the YouTube description. And if you please complete that. If anyone wants support, that'll be the easiest and quickest and most efficient way. We ask you questions about kind of like what support you need. We also ask you to please upload your most up-to-date CV, or put a link into your up-to-date CV. That way we can then assess kind of what support you need, and we can get in contact with you. As we mentioned before, we're going to be rolling out a series of workshops and things like that. And we're also going to be doing our career sessions once we've mobilized the team, but we will be sending out updates. Hopefully we'll have something on the main WT website as well, so you can get further details about that.
Okay, well, all this information we will put on the WT website. We will also send follow-up information through our social media, which we don't need to clean up. All the details will be there. If you don't get through anything, even if you call the church office, you understand, they will link you to the right place. If you just call the number, go onto our website, our number is on there. Call the church office, somebody will put you in the right place. And I know it's a blessing. Any last words before we leave?
So I was just going to say that, everything we've spoken about today is really important, but also ensure that you are listening to what God's telling you to do, where you need to be. That's a key thing, because I know we've talked about the salary increase and things like that, but there may be a reason why God's telling you to be serve or be in that position at that point in time. Pastor done a lot of sessions on hearing the voice of God, so just ensure that you're doing that as well. We're not saying chase money, chase what you deserve, chase your worth, your value. So make sure you keep that at the forefront and ensure that you're doing what God's calling you to do.
Right.
And for me, I would say, just kind of to bounce off Stella, definitely we understand that, there are barriers. There are not just external, but there are internal barriers. And that's some of the things that we're going to be praying for. So we're going to be praying to break those barriers, break anything that's internal to you as well that needs work on, because we recognize it's a holistic thing. It's not just about what's happening outside, there's things on the inside. And so part of this is a pastoring service as well. So we're going to be working on those things as well. And so that's just one thing we want to put out. It's not just about just the practical element. There's going to be that other side as well.
Right.
And my thing is, what is for you is for you. So like they've rejected you and they said no, but they've said no because you was never meant to work there in the first place. And so I want to encourage those people that are right now, there's like, I've applied for so many jobs. You only need one. So I know you've applied for so many and it's fine, but then right now what is for you is waiting for you. So we're waiting for that right moment and the right time for you to apply for that job, and then you'll get success in that role. So
thank you so much, guys. WTXL, EXCEL at gmail.com. Just send an email out, visit our website. We're going to update our website and put stuff on that. But this is just the beginning. This is not the end. We promise by God's grace that this team is going to grow and we're going to give you the best. We will make sure that unemployment is unemployed in Washington in the name of Jesus. And God bless you all. Thank you, the panelists. I'm sure everyone has felt something tonight. And I believe that you have been such a wonderful, valuable experience to us, and wonderful panelists. And I'm telling you, God bless you all. Thank you so much. Folks, we have to close right now. I know it's our Wednesday service. If you want to give an offering, go ahead and do that. God bless you as you do that. And God will make all grace and every favor and every blessing come to you in abundance, that you may, under all circumstances, whatever the need be, self-sufficient, possessing enough to require no aid or support, and you'll be furnished in abundance unto every good work and charitable donation. Amen. You're not paying for this service, so don't have to pay. No. It's just that on that Wednesday service, we just give an offering, so you don't have to do it, and just please don't worry about it. That's why the details are not there, because you might have to just go to the website. But it's free, and I believe that you've been blessed. And subsequently, all these stuff is free. We don't charge in Worship Tabernacle. It's not something we do. We just want to be a blessing to you. And God bless you. God bless you, Liz. God bless you, Stella. God bless you, Francis. And I believe that people will join. We'll be able to build this team, build stuff, and we will be a blessing to the world. And so we will have to close right now. And I'm going to say the grace. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. And surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our life as we dwell in the house of the Lord in Goshen. In Jesus' name, amen. Bye, everyone. God bless you. God bless you. I'm sure they will key us out, Oracle. Key us